story begins inside a prison, where a man named Driver is quietly staring at an old photograph of himself and his brother. He has been waiting for this day for 10 long years, because today his bail is finally about to be approved. A short while later, several police officers arrive and escort Driver to the warden's office. The warden advises him to step outside and start a new life. He even hands Driver his visiting card, suggesting that he reach out if he ever needs help in the future. But Driver shows no interest in any of it. He simply asks for the way out. The moment he walks out of the prison gates, he heads straight toward a nearby scrapyard. There, a beautifully polished car is parked, completely covered. Driver pulls out a key hidden near one of the tires and gets inside the car. Inside, he finds detailed information about a specific man. Along with that, there's a revolver, several maps, and important documents neatly placed inside. The moment Driver sees all this, he wastes no time and immediately drives toward that man's location. Reaching outside the office building, he crosses the busy road through heavy traffic, enters the building, and quickly finds his target. Without any hesitation, Driver shoots the man in the head, killing him on the spot. However, the entire scene gets recorded on the CCTV cameras installed there. But Driver doesn't care about that at all. He calmly walks out, gets into his car, and drives away without looking back. Nearby, in the same area, there's a bar where a drug addict named Slate is trying to buy drugs from a dealer. Slate doesn't have enough money, so the dealer initially refuses. After a lot of arguing and some desperate bargaining, Slate somehow manages to get his hands on the drugs. As soon as news of the murder at the office spreads, multiple police units rush to the scene. Among them is a female officer named Cicero. Shortly after, Slate also arrives because he himself is an investigation officer. However, the entire department already knows about his addictions and his bad record. That's why no one really likes him. It's clear he won't be able to stay in the job for much longer. The moment Cicero sees Slate at the scene, she tells him to leave immediately. But Slate flatly refuses. He says he's there specifically to solve this case. Meanwhile, Driver has already reached another office, where he meets a man named Roy. Roy is the same person Driver had hired to gather information related to his brother's murder. Roy is the same man who had hidden the car and all the equipment at the scrapyard. Driver asks him for information about the remaining people involved. But by now, Roy's attitude has completely changed. He demands double the money that was originally agreed upon. This immediately angers Driver. He bluntly tells Roy that he won't even pay the full agreed amount. He'll only give half of it. Hearing this, Roy loses his temper and calls in his bodyguard, who happens to be an MMA champion. The bodyguard is just about to attack Driver when his eyes fall on the tattoo on Driver's hand. The moment he sees it, he freezes in fear. Calling Driver Ghost, he steps back in panic. Terrified, the bodyguard turns around and runs away from the place. Seeing his bodyguard react like that completely shocks Roy. Out of fear, he gives Driver the names and addresses of all the remaining people without taking any money at all. Meanwhile, Cicero and Slate are carefully reviewing the CCTV footage from the office. From the video, it becomes clear to them that Driver and the murdered man already knew each other. Because of this, they begin digging deeper into Driver's background. Suddenly, Slate receives a call from his wife. She tells him that today he'll have to take responsibility for the kids. Slate's wife has already been extremely upset with him because of his drug addiction. Because of this, Slate isn't able to refuse her today and is forced to. Slate takes his son and heads toward the baseball practice ground. On the other hand, inside a massive mansion, a man known as Killer is calmly practicing yoga. His house is extremely luxurious, and the photographs on the walls clearly reveal that he was once a highly successful software developer. As a child, he suffered from a serious problem in his legs. But through daily effort and constant exercise, he strengthened his body over time. Now, his body has incredible flexibility. At present, he works as a contract killer. While talking to his beautiful girlfriend, a photo suddenly appears on his phone. The picture is of Driver, who has now become his next target. As soon as the target is confirmed, Killer quickly packs his gear. He kisses his girlfriend several times and leaves without wasting a second. Meanwhile, Cicero is sitting in her office, carefully studying the tattoo on Driver's hand. Just then, her senior officer walks in and apologizes to her, saying that because of him, she's been forced to work with a careless officer like Slate, but Cicero doesn't seem particularly bothered by it. She asks her senior to leave and shifts her focus back to the case. A short while later, Slate returns as well and brings information related to Driver. Slate returns with several crucial pieces of information. Through this, they finally learn Driver's real name, Jimmy, about 10 years ago. Jimmy carried out a dangerous bank robbery along with his brother, Gary. In that robbery, Jimmy served as the getaway driver. And with his exceptional driving skills, he managed to help his partners escape from the police. From that day on, people started calling him Driver. But after the robbery, everything went horribly wrong. While returning home, Jimmy and Gary were caught at gunpoint by a group of men who began interrogating them about the stolen money. To save his brother's life, Jimmy revealed everything he knew. But even after getting the money, those men brutally slit Gary's throat and killed him right in front of Jimmy. Not only that, they also shot Jimmy in the head. Gary's death completely shattered Jimmy. Although the doctors somehow managed to save his life, they had to place a metal plate in his head. Later in court, the entire blame for the bank robbery was placed solely on Jimmy, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. That's why, the moment he stepped out of jail, Jimmy was burning with rage and a thirst for revenge. Now, one by one, was hunting down everyone who had killed his brother and framed him. At this moment, his next target is an old man who lives in an apartment. Jimmy is already waiting outside the old man's apartment. Around the same time, Killer also arrives at the location. While talking to his therapist on the phone, he keeps a close watch on Driver from a distance. The moment Driver enters the apartment building, Killer readies his gun and quietly follows him inside. Meanwhile, the old man has lured a young woman into his apartment under the pretense of helping her. He gives her drugs and waits for her to lose consciousness so he can later take advantage of her. He has already started recording a video when suddenly the door is kicked open and Driver storms inside. Driver immediately points his gun at the old man. Seeing Driver alive, the man completely panics. In his fear, he starts confessing, saying that someone had paid them a huge amount of money to kill Gary. But Driver doesn't listen to a single word. Without hesitation, he shoots the old man in the head, killing him instantly as Driver steps outside. Killer is just about to open fire on him. Suddenly, a small girl appears in front of them. Because of this, Driver senses someone's presence. He quickly fires at Killer to scare him off and without wasting a second, jumps into his car and escapes from the scene. For now, Driver manages to slip away from Killer's grasp. A short while later, heavy police forces arrive at the old man's apartment. Cicero and Slate also reach the scene. Cicero and Slate thoroughly examine the entire scene. After completing the investigation, it becomes clear to them that this man was also killed by Driver. Their investigation further reveals that the old man was selling disturbing, molestation-related content on the dark web. He was the very same person who had recorded the video on the day when Gary was murdered right in front of Driver, and when Driver himself was later shot in the head. Meanwhile, Killer becomes extremely restless after losing track of Driver. He tells his girlfriend everything about him. He explains that there's a terrifying fire of revenge burning in Driver's eyes, making him the most difficult target he has ever faced. Even so, Killer takes it as a challenge. Before finishing off Driver, he makes a major decision and proposes marriage to his girlfriend. Hearing this, she becomes incredibly happy. The next morning, when Cicero arrives at the office, she notices the tattoo on Slate's hand. At that moment, she realizes that Slate had previously worked in the Los Angeles Homicide Department, a department infamous for corruption and misconduct. It was during that period that Slate developed a serious drug addiction. Later, he met a woman named Marina who worked as an informant, and the two fell in love. Sometime after that, they both got married. She eventually married him as well. In front of Cicero, Slate claims that after the birth of his son, he completely gave up drugs. Cicero believes him. She even starts to feel sorry for Slate. That's why she explains to him that whatever happened belongs to the past now. He should focus on the case and try to put his life back on the right track. Meanwhile, the driver speeds his car and arrives outside a house. There, he sees a woman walking her husband and child out. Once they leave, driver reloads his gun and enters the house. At first glance, it seems like he has come there to kill her, but the truth is something else entirely. This woman was once Driver's girlfriend. When Driver went to prison, she was pregnant. Driver believes that the child he just saw outside might be his own son. However, his former girlfriend tells him the truth. She says that the child is not his. After Driver was sent to jail, she was completely broken. Consumed by anger and pain, she had an abortion. After some time, she managed to pull herself together, move on, and marry another man who is now the real father of that child. Hearing this truth completely shatters Driver from the inside. Without saying a word, he turns and starts walking out. Just then, from behind, his former girlfriend stops him and wishes him good luck for his next mission. She knows that Driver is now on a very personal path, moving forward to punish the people who killed his brother. On one side, Driver's heart is completely shattered. On the other side, Killer is celebrating his wedding. He races to the church in a supercar with Lily and officially marries her there. Both of them are extremely happy with their marriage. They don't put on any grand show or ceremony. After the wedding, they head to a deserted place to have some fun. There, the two of them practice target shooting together using handguns. Now that Killer is officially married, he begins to feel that his responsibilities in life have increased. Because of this, he decides to leave the world of contract killing behind. His plan is to go far away with Lily and live a peaceful, normal life. Lily loves this decision and starts dreaming about their new future together. Meanwhile, deeply influenced by Cicero's words, Slate arrives outside Marina's house. Because of his bad habits, Marina had distanced herself from him and was now living in a different home. Slate wants to fix everything, so he stands in front of her and sincerely apologizes from the heart. Marina still cares about Slate, and Marina watches the news coverage of Slate's investigation very closely. But hearing his apology, she doesn't immediately forgive him, as his drug habits had caused a lot of damage in their lives. After talking for quite some time, Slate finally convinces her that from now on, he will never touch drugs again. Meanwhile, under the cover of night, Driver makes his way through deserted streets toward his next target. This target is a bouncer at a strip club, the very man who had slit his brother Gary's throat. The moment Driver spots him, heads straight into the club and waits near the bouncer's bathroom. As soon as the bouncer enters, Driver approaches him with a sharp weapon. The bouncer immediately recognizes Driver, and fear drains the color from his face. He draws his dagger in response. Just then, an old man enters the bathroom. Driver signals him to leave and sternly warns him to act as if he saw nothing once he gets outside. Terrified, the old man quickly exits. Driver then closes the door, and an intense fight erupts between him and the bouncer. They exchange powerful blows for quite some time. Finally, Driver unleashes all his strength on the bouncer, striking him repeatedly until the man is left in a completely battered and helpless state. The bouncer finally reaches the point of death, but even then, he doesn't apologize to Driver. All he says is that after his death, Driver should go to his son and say sorry on his behalf. Hearing this, Driver doesn't reply. He simply leaves him there, steps outside, and makes a phone call. Meanwhile, Killer sits at home, going through his old photographs. His eyes fall on a childhood picture, showing when his legs didn't function properly. Even after surgery, deep scars remained on his legs. These memories make Killer feel insecure about himself, and he often experiences panic-like attacks. To calm himself, he starts cleaning his guns. At that moment, Killer once again resolves that he will leave this life of violence forever, but only after finishing off Driver. When Lily learns of this, she tries to stop him, but Killer doesn't listen to a single word. Heartbroken, Lily walks away in tears. Her words no longer affect him, and he quietly continues cleaning his guns. Meanwhile, Slate spends the night at Marina's house with his son. Around midnight, when Slate wakes up, his son tells him that he doesn't enjoy baseball because he isn't very good at it. Slate patiently explains to him that in order to get better at anything, he tells his son that to get better at anything, you have to practice consistently. He explains that once he starts playing well, he'll naturally begin to enjoy baseball. Later, when Slate goes to the bathroom, he finds Marina looking very worried. She fears that he might start using drugs again. Slate embraces her, sincerely apologizes, and promises that from today onward, he will never touch drugs again. To prove it, he takes all the drugs he has and flushes them down the toilet right in front of her. After that, the two of them go to bed together. The next day, both Killer and Slate leave their respective homes, but there is only one name on their minds: Driver. On the way, Slate calls Cicero. She informs him that the attack on the bouncer the previous night has already been reported. Fortunately, people reached the bathroom in time. The bouncer was admitted to the hospital alive. A background. Check reveals that the bouncer had been involved in multiple criminal activities in the past. Meanwhile, Slate heads toward the hospital himself at the same time. Driver hears on the radio that his target is still alive. Without wasting a second, he sharply turns his car, making a nearly 180-degree turn, and speeds back toward the city, heading straight for the hospital. At the same time, Killer receives a call from his contractor. He is informed about the bouncer and told in no uncertain terms that he needs to get to the hospital immediately, because it's certain that Driver will show up there. Inside the hospital, several surgeons are performing an operation on the bouncer. Slate arrives first and heads into a nearby room. But it doesn't take long before a Driver also enters the hospital. He storms straight into the surgery room and opens fire on the bouncer right in front of the doctors. This time, he leaves no chances and completely finishes the bouncer off. The sound of gunfire creates chaos throughout the hospital. Slate rushes outside and starts chasing Driver. Both of them run through the hallways and eventually reach the hospital basement. There, they start shooting at each other relentlessly. But thanks to his superior skills, Driver manages to pin Slate at gunpoint. The moment he notices Slate's police badge, he lets him go. In the next instant, Driver gets into his car and speeds away. On the way, Driver receives a call on his phone from the bouncer's son. He talks to him calmly and advises him to follow his heart in life. He tells the boy to make every move thoughtfully and to do what truly feels right for him. Carefully, just then, Killer's car suddenly appears from behind, and he begins chasing Driver through a traffic-packed road. Both of them are expert drivers. Their cars race at high speed as they keep firing at each other. During the chase, a bullet grazes Driver's neck, leaving him slightly injured. Even then, he manages to escape. This makes Killer extremely frustrated. At that moment, Killer receives another call from his contractor, now orders him not to kill Driver anymore. Hearing this, Killer completely loses his temper. But no matter what, he refuses to back down. He decides not to cancel the contract on his end and chooses to continue the hunt on his own. Meanwhile, Driver's condition is no longer stable. He heads straight to Gary's old house, where their mother still lives. Inside, he looks at some old photographs. A little later, his mother comes to him, notices the wound on his neck, and starts stitching it herself. During this moment, Driver finally tells his mother the truth. He explains that they didn't commit the robbery to become rich, but to pay off Gary's debt. He says he stood by Gary only because he deeply cared for his brother. Driver also admits that he never imagined someone would leak their information to another gang, the same people who eventually came and killed Gary. His mother calms him down and hands over Gary's ashes. Driver had decided that he would scatter these ashes only after killing his final target. So without wasting any time, he takes Gary's ashes and sets out toward his last target. But throughout the journey, a single question keeps echoing in his mind. Who was the one who gave their location to those men? And who was the one who paid to have Gary and him killed? When Cicero learns about the final encounter between Slate and Driver, she praises Slate. She says that thanks to his quick thinking and presence of mind, at least he was able to reach Driver. After that, Cicero shows him a few more names and faces any one of whom could be Driver's next target. Slate picks up the photo of one man from the group and heads straight toward his house. Meanwhile, Driver arrives near a church on the outskirts of a small village. Under a tent, a preacher is teaching children the path of righteousness. Driver waits until all the children leave before approaching the preacher for a private conversation. During their discussion, Driver learns that the preacher had completely left his criminal past behind. He had deeply regretted his actions after Gary's death. In fact, he was the only member of the group who didn't want Gary dead. Even now, he feels remorse for what the others did. Despite knowing all this, Driver takes the preacher outside. It's clear that he's about to kill him. But then the preacher speaks up. He tells Driver that he now has 12 adopted children, and the entire responsibility of their lives rests on him. He also explains that after Gary's death, he had cooperated with the police. Driver listens as the preacher explains that he had confessed all his past crimes and served his punishment. Hearing this, Driver fires a shot to the side in frustration and tells the preacher to go take care of his family. He then returns to the tent and sits down. Suddenly, Killer arrives and points his gun at Driver. Up until now, Killer hasn't fired because he wanted to defeat Driver in a fair fight. For the same reason, he also takes Driver's pistol away. But Driver doesn't resist. He doesn't want to fight because Killer hasn't harmed him yet. At that moment, Slate arrives and shoots at Driver's head immediately. And here comes the big revelation. It was Slate himself who, all those years ago, had arranged for Gary and Driver to be killed. Slate was also the one who gave Killer the contract to take out Driver. But Slate knew that Driver would never harm an innocent person. That's why he later tried to cancel the contract with Killer, planning to kill Driver himself and appear as a hero in everyone's eyes. However, Killer didn't cancel the contract. With Killer's role now complete, he starts to leave. Slate stops him and asks for his fee. Killer explains that his fee was only $1 because he did the job in shock, but Slate insists on paying him. Killer refuses even to take the $1 fee, saying he can't accept payment because he failed to kill Driver and has no intention of doing this kind of work ever again. Killer and Slate are still talking when suddenly, Driver shoots Slate himself. It's revealed that Slate had fired at Driver's head before, but the steel plate in Driver's skull had saved him. With this, Driver finally avenges Gary's death. Meanwhile, as Cicero digs deeper into Slate's history, she uncovers the full truth. Everyone involved in Gary's murder had previously been in prison with Slate. Driven by greed, Slate had conspired with them to carry out the hit. Cicero learns all this from Marina, who had been Gary's girlfriend at the time, realizing the truth. Cicero rushes to Slate's location but finds only Slate's lifeless body. Seeing this, she is stunned. Deep down, she understands that what Driver did wasn't wrong, even though she never exposes Slate's full treachery to the world. In the end, Driver goes to the seaside and scatters Gary's ashes into the water. Killer returns to Lily, while the preacher continues his mission, guiding as many people as he can toward the right path. And with that, this story comes to an end. So friends, how did you like this story? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.